Welcome to the 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. We've got a packed house here. Excited to see 8 YouTube and Twitch personalities battle it out in a 4-team Waseda-style format as we get set to see some of the new features in Pokkén Tournament Deluxe. Welcome in, I'm Jordan Kent, alongside with our 2 analysts, Vicky, Kitty, and D1. And Vicky, as we get set to see these core gameplay mechanics that our Twitch personalities obviously have mastered, but our YouTube personalities might try to grasp, what are they focusing in on?
So what you want to focus on are the different phases of the game. For those of you who are starting out for Pokkén Tournament, please be aware what field phase and duel phase is. As we see our contestants battle it out for Pokkén Tournament Deluxe, you guys will see the different changes and how the battling will continue between field phase and duel phase.
And D1, there are some differences in this version, obviously. There's a reason why you call it Deluxe. What are we expected to see from the Pokkén Tournament edition that we are familiar with on Wii U? What are the differences with this Deluxe edition?
True, there are definitely a lot of people thinking, why should I pick up the Switch version of the game if it came out on Wii U? Well, let me tell you something. There's Krogunk, Darkrai, Scizor, and Empoleon. Characters that were available in arcade in Japan are now finally coming stateside. And not only that, we also have the Decidueye. Also, there's split screen mode, which allows people to be able to play locally at home. And not only split screen, but you could also have 2-player on one screen playing. So one character in the foreground and one in the background duking it out. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that we also have 2 new support Pokemon with Litten and Popplio.
Lots of exciting new things in this Pokkén Tournament Deluxe edition that are 4 teams and 8 competitors will be taking place in. And Vicky, you look at sort of how to understand some of the core mechanics, as we mentioned, and sort of being able to not only master and control your Pokemon, but then read and react to what the other opponent is doing.
Right, so how the game normally works with mechanic-wise is a rock, paper, scissor game. You want to always be one step ahead of your opponent and understand what beats what. So, you know, you always have to be one step ahead and understand if you do manage to win that trade, you do manage to get a lot out of it, like a critical that deals extra damage.
Let's take a look at our bracket and take you through a tour of some of the action we'll have going on this morning. Match 1, you're going to see, here's how things break down. Best 2 out of 3 rounds, that's going to win you a game. Best 2 out of 3 games, that's going to win you a match, which means you can advance in the bracket. You see the matchups here. We'll have the YouTube personalities battle it out first, then the Twitch personalities. If there is a 3rd game necessary to decide a match, then you will have the winner from the YouTube personalities taking on the winner of the Twitch personalities to see who advances in the match. So it's very exciting. And D1, to see, obviously, these Twitch personalities, very, very seasoned at this game particularly, against these YouTube personalities that they're still trying to grasp maybe some of the fundamentals here.
Oh, indeed. And let's not even forget about some of the pros that we have here as well, teaming up with these Twitch and YouTube personalities. It's going to be really interesting seeing how they face off, because some of the pros that we have in-house come from different fighting game communities. So I think we're going to see some really interesting things here today.
We're ready for our first match, so please welcome to the stage Matt Pat from Game Theory and his wife Stephanie Patrick as they get set to take center stage in our first matchup of the morning. Please give them a warm round of applause. And now it's interesting because we have the husband-wife duo going up. After they go on, our Twitch personalities, Ken and Alistair, will then battle it out. And as we mentioned, if it's necessary, a 3rd game, you have the winner from the YouTube personalities taking on the winner of the Twitch personalities. As we said, Stephanie Patrick, wife of Matt Pat. Throwing them in the fire right off the bat here, Vicky.
I just hope whoever loses gets to compensate and do the dishes later that night, because there are going to be some hands being thrown.
In D1, these YouTube personalities, they're going to select their character prior to the match, and so they're obviously going to know who's going with who. But when you look at getting a chance to get familiarized with this, what are some of those core things that people that are first getting introduced to this really need to learn to grasp?
When it comes to a Pokkén Tournament, first and foremost, not only do you have to understand what kind of character you're going into, but the support Pokemon that can help also complement your character. Depending on which support Pokemon you're using, you can actually have the upper hand in a match that maybe wasn't in your favor at first.
When you talk about the support Pokemon, there's offensive and defensive types of support Pokemon. How interesting is it that a lot of these fighters will try to find that support Pokemon that either contrasts their playstyle or supports it?
Oh, indeed. There's some Pokemon that actually allow players that are really into rushdown find a way to get through projectile zoners, while other Pokemon can actually just clear a path for those people that maybe get pressured way too much. And here we already have it. Scizor, one of my favorite Pokemon, taking the stage.
Two of the new Pokemon you can catch in Pokkén Tournament Deluxe on Switch as that comes out. Matt Pat versus Stephanie Pat. Scizor versus Empoleon. Let's get this started off in field phase right now. Scizor gonna unleash a couple projectiles right here, get some damage on Empoleon. Meanwhile, Empoleon doing a fine job of blocking Vicky, and being able to master that block is critical.
It is very critical, and as we saw right there, already a phase change. This is where you're gonna see the most damage being done. This is dual phase. You wanna rack up as much damage as possible, and immediately with another phase shift right there,
Matt Pat as Empoleon putting some pressure on Stephanie Pat, who is going to be Scizor. Meanwhile, Scizor doing a fine job of zoning out Empoleon early on here, D1.
But you already see Empoleon just using Aqua Jet to get inside. Empoleon, not quite the fastest character, but if he's able to use Aqua Jet, he has 4 different options out of it that allows him to get in, and already right there taking the first round over Scizor.
Empoleon with the grab to secure that one. That means Matt Pat gets the victory. If Matt wins one more round, he's victorious, and there's something about marriage advice. You can either be victorious or happy, so I'll let you think about that one, Matt, as you get set for the next round here. Now, as we get set, we saw with Scizor, Stephanie Pat really struggling for the most part to get a lot of big hits on Empoleon. Empoleon doing a fine job of blocking Vicky.
although Empoleon may be very slow in his own way, when he gets in, he does immense amount of damage, and that is exactly what we saw that last game. But at the moment, we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing a completely different game compared to the last game we were introduced to.
Full synergy gauge for both players right now, and how important is that synergy gauge, D1, as far as the timing of when you want to use it?
So with the synergy gauge, you can actually use it to get some pressure off of you if you're blocking. You can get some recoverable health, and also access to a burst attack, which will be able to turn the tides of a match.
Empoleon with the grab, Matt Pat with the early lead, 326, 237 on the health bar. Scizor trying to get some damage done in field phase. Meanwhile, going to go ahead and shift it right here. Stephanie Patrick trying to hang on and force a third round in this game between the two that are the husband and wife. Meanwhile, Empoleon with yet another grab, and Vicky, Stephanie unable to negate those grabs.
That's quite unfortunate right there, but she's activating her burst mode right now. That burst mode does a lot of damage, exactly 223 to be exact. He needs to watch out with only 51 health. Oh, but unfortunately, misses it just by a tad bit.
Here comes the support Pokemon with Latia. Stephanie Pat trying to give Matt Pat a to-do list and get to the third round here. However, Empoleon into the synergy burst, and Stephanie Pat with the victory. And we're gonna have a third round to decide this game between the two from Game Theory. And what we saw was Stephanie Pat getting into that synergy burst and being able to apply some pressure on Empoleon right there.
And Matt Pat did activate his synergy burst as well, but was unable to take advantage of that opportunity too.
Third and final round in this game between Matt Pat and Stephanie Pat, our two YouTube personalities. A couple of early hits here for Empoleon. And when you look at the support Pokemon, D1, how can they play a huge role in this third and final round?
If we're looking at Matt Pat's Pokemon Fennekin right there, you actually are able to use a move that is able to get the opponent off of you upon wake up. And now looking at Stephanie Patrick with the Latias, if I'm not mistaken, you're able to close in the Pokemon, making it really difficult for them to move around. So here it is, Scizor already having a tough time trying to zone. As you can see, Empoleon is always getting inside, using Scizor using the Swords Dance, which is great for actually making it difficult for your opponents to get inside. But as you can see, it covers the sides better than the front.
Huge advantage right now for Matt Pat as Empoleon enters synergy gauge. This could be enough to close the match here. However, Scizor not ready to give it up. Gets it knocked back into that support Pokemon right there. And now it's close. Stephanie Pat with the light advantage, but no! Matt Pat gonna go ahead and get the victory over Stephanie Pat. Impressive performance by Empoleon, and we saw Scizor, Stephanie Pat, try to get some damage late in that one, try to turn things around, but what we saw from Empoleon and Matt Pat the entire time, able to sort of stay in that mid-zone area and keep Scizor nice and uncomfortable.
That is where Empoleon does the most damage, actually. We did mention that earlier, and what we also saw right at the end there, how the support Pokemon was able to help Stephanie follow up with more attacks and keep that distance, but unfortunately, it just was not enough.
And you look at two Pokemon in Scizor and Empoleon here, D1, two Pokemon that typically specialize in that rush down type of play where you really want to get up in the opponent's face and apply some pressure, but we saw Empoleon able to keep Scizor at bay, and that's what made it difficult.
Yeah, man, the Ice Beam right there from Empoleon is such a great zoning tool, and right afterwards, you're able to slide right in once you apply that little bit of pressure and get up in the opponent's face. Empoleon has such great tools to even break counters, but we're gonna go into this next match here with Alistair versus Ken.
Alistair going with Mewtwo, Ken going with Scizor early in this one. Scizor getting the attack here on Mewtwo, applying some early pressure. Mewtwo, however, able to knock back Scizor. An early advantage right now for Alistair. The nice combo up against the wall, gonna knock Scizor back. And you look at the type of player Mewtwo is. Mewtwo, once again, kind of one of those all-around players, D1.
Yeah, Mewtwo definitely one of the strongest characters in the game. Has great zoning tool, and that Hyper Beam dishes out a lot of damage. And another thing to look at is both of these players have the same assist support Pokemon right there with Litten. Litten, if your HP is rather low, you're actually able to dish out more damage. It is a projectile, and right there, first game going to
Alistair getting the victory right there with Mewtwo. Very impressive. And listen, if you don't have a Master Ball against Mewtwo, it's going to be really tough sometimes. So very impressive performance right there. Can Ken force a third round, or else the victory's going to go this match to Matt, Pat, and Alistair. Let's pick this one up early on. Again, more pressure just being applied by Mewtwo and able to just get Scizor up against that wall, get those combos, and Vicky, it is very difficult sometimes when you get pinned up against the edge of the stage.
Yeah, it really does, because not only are you stuck against the wall, but you're limited to so much stage control that you take so much damage. Although you can't ever get KO'd if you are pressed against the wall immensely. But immediately we're seeing Scizor taking it over Mewtwo. Mewtwo and Scizor being two characters that really like to fight mid-range.
There you have it. Alistair making quick work of Ken, getting the 2 victories right there. And so that is game, set, and match for the combination of Matt, Pat, and Alistair. They will advance in our bracket. Big round of applause for Stephanie, Patrick, and Ken. We'll let Stephanie and Matt go ahead and work that one out a little bit later. I'm sure they'll get a chance to practice more Pokemon Tournament Deluxe. And D1, you look at Mewtwo in that last match, and it was really interesting to see the combination of the projectiles to keep Scizor at bay. Scizor never really had an opportunity to get up close in Mewtwo's face and apply some of those combos and pressure.
Yeah, Mewtwo has this great tool in the cycle cut where he's able to dash in and out and throw it yet again. His grab comes out quite deceptively fast as well. When you look at it, he's already in your face and you're taking damage. So I think with that zoning tool that Mewtwo has, it's very difficult sometimes for people to deal with, especially if your back's to the corner.
Mewtwo also has one of the best homing attacks in the game, so it can be really difficult to try to jump around him to probably attack from behind, because it's so large that it can actually be counted as an anti-air. So you have to look out for that as well when you're trying to approach a character like Mewtwo.
Well, we saw in that match between Alistair and Ken, Alistair using Mewtwo, Ken going with Scizor, that Mewtwo was just doing a fine job of zoning out Scizor. And when you get those all-around type players that can play either close or from afar, they're really trying to read and react on the type of player that they are facing. And Scizor being a rush-down type player, Mewtwo can just sit back and use its wide array of projectiles, D1, to keep Scizor at bay. And it was never really even close at any moment in this one.
Yeah, the entire time you just saw Alistair zone in space right around Ken, trying to force him to approach, and he limited his options really well because he threw projectiles not only from the ground but also the sky, and it really looked like Ken just didn't know what was coming.
Let's take a look at the updated bracket as we see the team of Alistair and Matt Pat advance. They will be taking on the winners of our next match. We'll get a chance to introduce them here shortly. And so that's looking like a pretty powerful combination right there. Matt, Pat, and Alistair. We'll have to see how that one got seeded. But we go back to some of these gameplay mechanics that we're seeing from these players here, Vicky. And it's really interesting as well, too, that ability to read your opponent. And we saw a lot of grabs being executed, but also how valuable is it to time that counter properly with some of the attacks you're going against?
It's very important because it can make a difference whether you're pushed against the wall or not, pushed at a very big disadvantage. So you have to understand, okay, I'm put into a very bad position. What can I do to get around this? You jump over a character like Mewtwo where he can catch you even in the air, as we saw earlier in that replay. You have to understand, okay, I'm put into a bad position. Maybe I need to take a step back, hold shield, but you don't want to hold shield for too long because that gets us up to a grab.
Let's get set for our next match here. It's going to be between JD Witherspoon and Nairo's going to be Team 3. Meanwhile, Team 4, Black Nerd Comedy and Justin Wong. So our first matchup will be JD Witherspoon taking on Black Nerd Comedy. Meanwhile, waiting for the next matchup will be Nairo and Justin Wong. Welcome them up to the stage. This is going to be exciting here, D1. We've got obviously some very seasoned fighting players here that have done a fantastic job here. They have got some very good proficiency with Pokkén Tournament Deluxe. However, our YouTube personalities, we saw in the situation of Matt Pat and Stephanie Patrick, as each round was advancing, they were almost picking up more of the mechanics of this game.
Oh, indeed. You can tell that when it comes to Pokkén Tournament, it is easy to pick up, but as far as mastering it, that's the hard part.
Certainly is, and there's a lot of mechanics, and I had a chance to chat with Alistair prior to this, and he was talking about the importance of being able to do that counter-attack dash cancel. A lot of times when you get a Pokemon like Scizor that's getting zoned out by Mewtwo, how do you use that counter-attack dash cancel to sometimes bait your opponent into getting them into a position where you can take advantage of them?
So as long as you know your opponent isn't using a move that is able to pierce the counterattack, you're able to build synergy, which is your meter that allows you to gain burst. And also, you get an opportunity. You don't take any damage when you go into the counterattack. And if you go for the dash cancel, you have quick access to any of your options in neutral after making sure to basically absorb the attack.
You also close in a lot of space when you counterattack dash cancel, so you're applying a lot more pressure and taking more stage control against the opponent as well.
We're seeing a lot of these new Pokemon that you will get introduced to in Pokkén Tournament Deluxe being used right now. Right now we're going to have a matchup of Darkrai and Krogunk, and Darkrai, one of those Pokemon, D1, that's going to be a zoner. Meanwhile, Krogunk, more so all around, so this is going to be interesting to see the playstyle that Krogunk's going to do, because you know Darkrai is going to want to keep Krogunk at bay.
Krogunk is a very silly character coming into Pokkén Tournament Deluxe. If you press his special button, the A button, he has so many different random moves that come out. You don't quite know what's going to come at you. And as far as Darkrai is concerned, he's a character that specializes in traps. If he's able to catch you with that Dark Void, you go into Nightmare mode. And once you're in Nightmare mode, things get way more difficult facing off against Darkrai. He has more moves that pierce as well.
A legendary, mythical creature of the dark taking on a ninja frog, basically. We've got Krogunk going on against Darkrai. That's what we love about Pokkén Tournament Deluxe. All of these Pokemon here getting a chance, even playing field, to take on each other. Still right now, nobody with an early advantage. You see JD Witherspoon with Darkrai. Meanwhile, Black Nerd Comedy going with Krogunk. And there you go, the support Pokemon coming in, creating some damage.
Krogunk actually trying to find his way in. As D1 did mention earlier, this character is a very RNG. If you hold his A button, he could get positive stats or negative stats. That would be terrible for him to get that negative stat around the end when it would really make a difference within the match.
Oh, we see JD Witherspoon, though, getting knocked back by Black Nerd Comedy and Krogunk, however, able to respond right there. Has that full synergy gauge. It's getting filled right there. However, has the support of Reshiram ready to go whenever he wants, D1.
Oh, absolutely. Reshiram dishes out a decent amount of damage. And right there, you already see Darkrai just having a tough time dealing with this Krogunk. You know, the Krogunk already activating burst mode. What's going to happen here?
Krogunk in burst mode, trying to put some pressure on Darkrai. Can he connect right here? No, won't. Darkrai able to block that. Able to do a fine job of reading Krogunk. However, time is up. You've got to operate a little bit quicker. That first victory in that round is going to go ahead and go to Black Nerd Comedy and Krogunk. Very impressive. JD Witherspoon and Darkrai. Hey, listen, you got another round, JD. You got a chance to bounce back here. And so, Vicky, you look at the choice of when to deploy support Pokemon. What's typically going through the mind of players as far as when they need to use that? Are they reading? If it's an offensive Pokemon, they're going to read the opponent. If it's defensive, you're waiting for the right time.
I think it's like two different things. I feel like it could be depending on the player's preference, what they feel like they lack as a player, and what their Pokemon lacks in the neutral. So if their Pokemon is just very slow and they're not able to close in that gap to get as much space as possible done and apply all that pressure, maybe they want a support Pokemon to help speed up their boost.
Krogunk applying some pressure to Darkrai, and what's interesting, D1, is we're seeing Krogunk really succeed right now, keeping some distance from Darkrai and zoning Darkrai out.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised seeing how Darkrai, being the character that's great at zoning, is instead being zoned out here by Krogunk. The bombs being placed on the field have made it very difficult for Darkrai to approach.
Darkrai activating its Synergy Burst. Let's see if we can connect with the burst move. This might do it. No! Misses, however. Meanwhile, Krogunk up against the wall. Darkrai trying to apply some pressure. Here comes the burst move, though. And this is going to be fantastic. What do we have here?
We have the Infinite Eclipse dishing out 198 damage. This should possibly be the end.
You can sit back and watch the credits roll right there as JD Witherspoon and Darkrai bounce back to take the next round and force a third round between our two YouTube personalities, D1.
Oh, and right now we actually have Black Nerd Comedy and
JD Witherspoon talking smack, pointing
smack,
heads behind the monitor. Wow. Wow. I like it. No love lost between these two as we get to our third and final round. Let's pick things up early on here. Krogunk getting some pressure on Darkrai, trying to zone Darkrai out, getting up close in the face of Darkrai now. And you see getting knocked back right there. You can't hold that shield and that block forever.
You can't, and you see Krogunk is actually planting the bombs on the opposite side of Darkrai and then forcing him to move towards those bombs with his own projectiles. It could be really tricky, and you have to watch out because those bombs are not activated, but they actually deploy on their own.
Krogunk gonna activate the Synergy Burst right now. That's gonna obviously do some more damage. Meanwhile, Darkrai with the buff of its own. Here comes the Synergy Burst move, but no, misses once again. And that is huge for Darkrai because Darkrai having a chance to build a Synergy Burst and also has that Cresselia as the support Pokemon ready to go and going to deploy it right now, D1.
Already getting that recoverable health back. Look at that, 408, looking quite healthy.
Krogunk getting in the face of Darkrai. Darkrai trying to get the grab right there, misses. Fine blocking right there. Nice little combo by Darkrai. JD Witherspoon versus Black Nerd Comedy. The best of three right here. It comes down to this. Meanwhile, Krogunk getting a major hit, doing some nice damage on Darkrai right there, Vicky.
Yes, it's incredible how much damage output Darkrai actually has, but Krogunk still holding his own. He could still definitely do this. He's applying as much pressure as he possibly can, and they're gonna try to put themselves into dual phase to rack up all the damage as possible there.
D1, only 10 seconds left in this one. You've got the advantage for Darkrai, and Darkrai gonna go ahead and get the knockout. Wow. Black Nerd Comedy thrown off by the confidence and the smack talk of JD Witherspoon. You see the swagger from JD Witherspoon as well too, getting that victory over Black Nerd Comedy. So now we hand it over to our Twitch personalities. We're gonna have Nairo taking on Justin Wong. It's going to be very exciting here. And what we saw, Darkrai dropping the first round here. However, it seemed like JD Witherspoon finally had a sip of coffee and woke up and picked his game up.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, I saw Nairo, he was definitely giving JD some tips, and after JD talked some smack to Black Nerd Comedy, I don't know what happened, but his confidence shot through the roof, and that third round, he was actually moving. You saw he was just swinging left and right, throwing out those projectiles, and that was it. Black Nerd Comedy losing the first game.
Exciting matchup here. We've got Mewtwo versus Weavile. As we mentioned, Mewtwo, one of those standard types, as we like to say, can operate from afar, zone you out, and get up in your face. Meanwhile, Weavile certainly want to get up close and apply some pressure right in your mug.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know who's playing who, Nairo will be playing Mewtwo, while Justin Wong with Weavile.
Justin Wong and Weavile getting the first couple initial hits, going to go ahead and shift the face here. Meanwhile, Mewtwo going to get some pressure and knock back Weavile right here. And nice air combo in the juggle right there, Vicky.
And that is the exact positioning where Mewtwo wants to be mid-range, but in your face, he could apply so much pressure. You do have to watch out because if that Weavile gets a critical and manages to rack up as much damage as possible, close range is where Weavile excels the most.
Weavile with a very nice combo right there. Mewtwo able to knock him back. And D1, talk a little bit about low stance, high stance. We're seeing some of that being deployed right now as these two players are really up close and personal and trying to read each other.
And the cool thing about low stance is that you're able to actually low profile, depending on the character that you're using, certain moves. If there's a move that goes rather high, you can duck underneath and get a free opportunity to counterattack.
Nairo and Mewtwo getting knocked back. Weavile going to go ahead and enter that Synergy Burst mode. We've got 30 seconds left in this match. Has Mewtwo on the ropes. Weavile trying to apply some pressure, and that will do it. Able to burst through the block right there. And now the pressure cooker heats up a little bit. One more victory in this round, and you've got JD Witherspoon and Nairo that will advance.
And something to keep into consideration at the very end there, when Weavile was using their burst mode, burst for Weavile was actually a short-range counter, so if Mewtwo would have thrown an attack, that burst could immediately activate and gone through that counter, just like it does for every other burst.
Absolutely right. Right now, both fighters in each other's face, applying some pressure. Mewtwo with a nice grab, going to do some damage right there. Early advantage Mewtwo, 57 seconds left, plenty of time. Still going to go ahead and try to push Weavile up against the edge of the stage here and just doing a fine job of pinning Weavile back. And look at all that damage Nairo was able to apply, D1.
And not only all that amazing damage that Nairo could apply, but you have to be afraid because right now going into the third round, we have Justin Wong with full burst.
Justin Wong with full burst. Nairo, meanwhile, with Mewtwo, able to get the victory on Weavile. So let's go to our third and final round to decide this game. Very exciting right here. Meanwhile, Mewtwo going to go ahead, try to get the aerial on Weavile. Misses right there, but how about the juggle right here, D1?
Nairo is actually on a tear, opening up with that hyper beam and also getting a combo into the fire punch, ice punch, and thunder punch. How is Justin Wong going to be able to bring it back?
Nairo, Justin Wong coming down to the end here in this round, a third and final one. Victory for each one of them. Mewtwo once again applying the pressure on Weavile.
This side strike, okay, Justin Wong, 71 health left. This is impressive play right here from Nairo.
And Nairo using Cresselia to get some of that health back. Meanwhile, burst mode activated for Weavile and Justin Wong. You've got to lay it all out on the line at this point, getting some pressure and some support from the support Pokemon. Here comes the burst move, but no, gonna be blocked by Nairo. Nairo counters with that juggle up against the wall here, Vic.
And all that pressure against the wall. Will Nairo take it right here? Only 0 health.
that
Nairo
does it.
takes it
Wow.
over Justin Wong.
From the brink. Very impressive. So Nairo and JD Witherspoon will advance. Hats off to Black Nerd Comedy and Justin Wong for a hard-fought battle. And really, we saw the Mewtwo. We talked about being standard in that matchup against Scizor. The previous match, we saw Mewtwo really working with distance, but now against Weavile, operated right in the face of Weavile and applied a lot of pressure up against the wall.
All I'm telling you right now is it looks like teams with Mewtwo are excelling. I don't know, man. It's a little scary.
Those Mewtwo teams certainly doing a very good job. And as we mentioned, Mewtwo, one of those standard players, as they like to say, that can really work both as a zoner or a rush type Pokemon. And especially in this match, we saw Mewtwo really taking advantage, Vicky, of really countering some of the attacks from Weavile and then doing a fine job of getting into some combos with some juggles.
Yeah, there was times too where Justin Wong was able to close in that gap and rack up a lot of damage on Nairo when he would win the rock, paper, scissors train, but unfortunately it just was not enough, and Nairo was just able to be on top of that RPS train all the time.
Let's take a look at the replay. And D1, tell me what you're seeing here as we roll this replay between Mewtwo and Weavile.
Okay, so right there, you see Justin Wong trying to use Frogadier to apply some pressure, which worked out really well in his favor. And right here, as Justin Wong went for the burst attack, observe, Nairo actually putting up his shield. I thought he didn't have shield up. Goes right around Weavile and uses that amazing homing attack just to get the wall splat right there. And that dive kick, putting Justin Wong in such a tough situation. Nairo, I wasn't quite sure if he was going to be able to finish it, but right there, those two light attacks was all he needed.